solutions-based conversations that bring diverse perspectives, not the typical politically correct conversation, if you can even use politically correct about what's happening in our environment these days, but really bringing people together to debate, dialogue, discuss, and bring strategies around making the world better, right? That's really is what I want to do. I started all of this probably 4 or 5 months ago with a couple of people that I work with. I have a gentleman, Sean Carruthers, who handles the IT for me. So he does, manages my website. Austin Taylor, who I hired a few months ago because I'm trying to increase my presence in LinkedIn and do something meaningful on Facebook. And so it's just been a few months, and then I lost my mother-in-law, so we sort of got sidetracked. But Austin is a part of the group that's working on this initiative as well. Thomas Griffin, who is a local, he's been a DJ, radio personality. He's pretty much doing radio only now. He's not been doing DJ or radio talk show now. He's not been doing the DJ thing for a while. Team. And then I recently took on an intern, Delia Jimenez, who is a senior at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, with a specialty in branding and animation. And so she's taking a look at the logo and the branding across all of the social media and working on what would be consistent branding for the podcast. So that's sort of and Carlos has added to that. He's pretty much been working with Thomas because when I started this conversation with that group of people several months ago, we really thought that we would be doing this on our own. And the more I looked into it, the more I thought, that's not really what I want to do, right? I want to be the content person and the delivery of the content. I don't want to do any of that other stuff that is absolutely necessary in order to have the podcast actually happen, right? And so Thomas and Carlos are the people from the team who have been vetting individuals that might be able to help us bring this vision to reality, right? Thus you. We've had multiple conversations, but the initial conversation was all about MP3, right?
Right.
We have explored things, and because my 2020 company goals also include putting something out in a learning management system so that people can have coursework or ways that they can access what it is I provide without me having to be present. And so my company can have alternative streams of revenue. The video aspect is sort of important to in the long term of where this goes, right?
Okay.
And in doing the research also, one of my colleagues, I belong to NABO, which is the National Association of Women Business Owners. And one of those women who I respect very much, is her business is all about podcasting. And so she offers on her website some free, here's how you get started kind of things. And one of the pieces of advice that she gave was that you should be engaged with YouTube because it is the second most common search engine after Google. And there is a lot of visual as opposed to audio on YouTube, though YouTube still has audio. So if you're being forward thinking, it would be limiting to only consider doing the audio and not thinking about how that could expand into the video, right? So I hope that gives you an idea of sort of what the foundation is of the thinking. So we've been tossing this up into the air for quite some time. Thomas is sort of the producer because he's the person with the radio performance background. He and I have worked out the format for the podcast and the content. And so now it's just about the operational side of the podcast and bringing all those pieces together to make it actually happen. I'm going to be honest and say I have to vibe with people. And so that's why we're having this conversation today. Like, I need to get the feel for the people that I work with and how we will engage with each other. That's important to me in what I do with my company and how I service my clients. It's important to me in all of my relationships. And I have a team because it is important to me to see diverse perspectives, to have bring people to the table that actually have expertise, to allow people the autonomy to do what they do. That's why I try to surround myself with people who do what they do well, and then leave them alone and let them do it. Right. So the sort of purpose for today is to get a feel for who you are and what you would bring to what I consider to be the team around the podcast, and or wherever it goes, right? Because that's another thing. I don't have a, this is absolutely the thing that I want to do. That's why I have a team. So we toss it around. We thought we wanted to do that, but maybe not so much. And so the expertise that you bring would help to shape that and inform that. And so that's why we're meeting. So I looked at, Carlos sent an email yesterday with some examples of things that you are doing or have done, which I thought were really very cool. So I think I want to stop talking and hear what you have to say based on what I've said so far.
Okay. My name is Anthony Venuto. I live in the Washington, D.C. area, as we were talking earlier. Um, Went to Howard University School of Communications. So I did go to school for this. Um, I hate to say it, but I guess I've been doing this for about 30 years.
And don't
Didn't
hate to-
realize
You're alive. The alternative is death. Be happy to
that's
say.
true. Didn't realize how long it's been. Worked in a variety of places, television stations, Fox News, Reuters News Service, Howard University Television, uh, countless freelance projects over the years. So I'm familiar with broadcast and internet broadcasting as well. Um, Obviously, the stuff that you're seeing, the stuff that you saw on the YouTube, the stuff I'm currently doing, including Mr. Nathaniel Lee's radio show on Saturdays. Obviously, I'm more of a video guy, so I know you just said you've been looking at the audio side of it. Um, but I guess the way I look at it in that respect, if you're going to do YouTube, you might as well do some kind of video because YouTube is, I mean, yes, you can do an audio only podcast on YouTube, but I would think video would definitely make it more engaging on that side. And another thing, I even tell this to Mr. Lee as well, the advantage of doing video is that you can always pull the audio off the video and do the pod. So you kill two birds with one stone. So you got a video production, so you want to put it on Facebook. Hey, check out the segment I did on my podcast. And you got the video segment, you interviewing somebody, or maybe you coaching somebody. You can show, let's say you have like an hour podcast, and you want to put like 5 minutes on YouTube so people can see what you're doing, and tell them, hey, make sure you tune in every Saturday at 1 o'clock. As I do my podcast, that kind of thing. So basically, like if you do the video side, you kill two birds with one stone. So
Right.
the flip side of it is if you just do the audio and then you decide, okay, well I want to do video, then like I said, you kind of almost got to start over, or you have to start doing what you could have all the video stuff taken care of. Just like you kill two birds with one stone. I mean, that's how I look at it.
Right. So, um, when we started this adventure, it has definitely been an adventure. Looking at, because we were looking first initially only for audio, we were looking for space, right? Some of those issues that caused us to get to, we need somebody else. So if you were going to be the person who navigates us through this process, what would that look like? So is that Zoom? Is that like, what are your thoughts about what is the best platform? Because if it's going to be video at this point, and I'm here in Indianapolis and you're in DC, we're definitely going to be connecting uh,
Right.
on the internet. And I think I said, but if I didn't, I do not want a podcast where people are listening to me talk. That's not what the kind of podcast like. I intend to have guests. I intend to challenge people in different ways. And so not only does it have to be something that where I am, it's like Nate's show where there are multiple people in multiple locations. So what would you say is the format we would need to use for that to happen? And how does it work for you to coordinate those things?
Well, okay. I have to say it this way. The best way, at least for me, and the easiest, aren't necessarily the same thing. So let me say that. So if I mention something and it's like, well, what about B? It's not that you can't use B, but I prefer A. So
Okay.
for example, Zoom is not necessarily my first choice for doing productions, but Zoom is the easiest way to bring everybody in.
Okay.
Um, so my software, you see the output of it now with the clock in your website. Um, and there's different ways I can bring people in into my software. Zoom's one of them. Like I said, that's the easy, especially if 'cause a lot of times I do Zoom events and people have like 10, 15 people coming in. So Zoom is the easiest way to bring everybody in. But if you're only talking about one or two people, at least for me, there's other options. Like my morning class, not my morning class, but the client that you saw the cooking show where she does a morning exercise class, I bring her in on Skype instead of Zoom.
I haven't
Um,
used Skype in a long time.
a lot,
Why
a lot of it. I'm sorry.
why Skype over Zoom? I'm just curious.
Skype is a little bit better picture quality. The thing with Zoom is Zoom's fantastic for what it was built for meetings and stuff, but it wasn't necessarily built for television. So
Okay.
it's a highly compressed format. I kind of tell people like this with Zoom. If you have a great looking camera, Zoom make it look good. If you have a good looking camera, Zoom make it look okay. If you have an okay looking camera, Zoom make it look kind of crappy. If you have a crappy camera, now you fill in the blanks. So that's why Zoom's not necessarily my first choice. But however, like I said, a lot of events I have done where you have like 8, 9, 10, 12, 20 people, it is
Mhm.
definitely the easiest way to bring that many people in at one time. So like I said, I'm not saying I never use it. It's just not my first choice. Like I said, now if you're talking about like you and one guest or something, I would use Skype, or there's a program within my production software called Rendezvous, which I've used on occasion. But the only problem with Rendezvous, at least on my software, when it works, is fantastic, and when it does, it's a pain in the butt. Skype has always been the nice mid ground. Decent picture quality, easy for people to get in. Because I could bring them in one or two ways. I could send out a link, and they could just click on a link like Zoom and come into the Skype meeting, or I can actually call them. So if they have the program open, I just do a video call, boom, they pop right on in. So it's pretty easy for them to come in. And like I said, the picture quality is better than Zoom. And like I said, if I'm using one or two people, then that's my personal choice.
Okay.
Um,
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
sorry.
No. That's all I was gonna say. And then obviously, when I'm doing stuff, and I'm adding certain elements to it. Like for example, um, this is your website. So like if we were talking about your website, well, my website, this, that, and the other, like I can show the website, I can move it around. Um, do you have access to another device right now?
Mm-hmm. My
Okay.
phone and my iPad. Does it matter which?
No. Okay. I don't want you to freak out because right now I'm putting this on YouTube, but nobody can see it because nobody has the link. So I just wanted to give you a feel for like what it looked like, because sometimes things will look off when like I'm when I'm doing a production, I'm doing it for the YouTube or Facebook. It's clean, but sometimes something looks messy on your end because the workflow works. Sometimes I have to hide stuff from you to make sure it's clean on Facebook and YouTube, or you may see something crazy happen, but the audience will never see it because what you're seeing, what's actually going on is two different things. And
Okay.
you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Is namely when like when you're on the screen, I have to be careful about not having you on the screen for you because it'll freak out the system, but it won't freak out what the audience will see, if
Okay.
that makes sense. But like I said, but again, this is the workflow I'm dealing with. This has nothing to do with anybody else or how anybody else is doing it. So, I'm just letting you know how things work. Like for example, I mean, right now you probably can see it.
Hmm.
Like let's say this is a quote from your website, this, that, and the other. So like you were talking about your website, and this was a particular point that you wanted to bring up, and I could show this on the screen while you're reading it.
Oh, wow.
Now this is the part where it gets kind of tricky because, like I said, if I try to show you right now, it's going to freak the system out. But if you go to the YouTube link, I can show you with a lower third and your bug in the picture. So if you go to, I put the link in the chat. So I'm
Oh,
going to turn off my camera for a second. And I had you up here. Oh, okay, I see what happened.
okay. Do I need to go to the link on a different device or go to the?
Ideally, I mean, you can use your computer if you want, or whatever you're on now. But I'd say maybe a little bit easier. Because something else I wanted to point out too. Um,
Okay.
another aspect when now, but I'd say maybe a little bit easier. Because something else I wanted to point out too. Sorry, I can hear myself on YouTube.
Okay.
Another aspect when you do me one favor, just turn it down for a second. Maybe a little bit easier. Because something else I wanted to point out too. Sorry, I can hear myself.
We got an echo happening.
Right.
I see what you mean.
When you do me one favor, just turn it down for a second. Maybe a little bit easier.
Okay.
Something else I wanted to point out too.
We got an echo happening.
Right.
I see what you mean.
Sorry, try to.
That's okay.
Obviously,
And a time delay, but that's sort of cool.
right. That's the other thing I wanted to go over too. It'll be a time delay, so you can't use it for a return. Like if you see the clock, you can see where the clock is versus what is on YouTube. Go over too. Be a time delay, so you can't use it for a return. Like I'm trying to figure out what audio is coming from. Where the clock is versus what is on YouTube. Go over too. Be a time delay, so you can't use it for a return. Like I'm trying to figure out what audio is coming from. Where the clock is versus what is on YouTube. Do me a favor, close out your YouTube for a second. The time delay, so you can't use it for a return. Like,
yeah, I'm
the
there.
clock is versus what is on YouTube. Do me a favor, close out your YouTube for a second. The time delay,
Okay, I thought you said go back to YouTube.
No, you'll close it out.
Yep, it's closed.
Okay. Yeah, you gotta make sure the audio's turned down. But I mean, you can see as I'm doing stuff. So like I said, for in this case, if I gotta reset it. Give me 1 second. I had it set up and I lost it. I'll see what happened. This is another reason I don't like Zoom because I have to go through extra steps to do production. But again, like I said, Zoom wasn't built for what we're doing, but it
right. That's not
post COVID.
Objective, right? So in doing an episode, I'm just trying to think it through. So if Thomas and I would need to meet about the flow of the episode beforehand so that you know what to do with all this how to work all this magic, or you're spontaneous in working all this magic.
It'll definitely be meetings involved.
Okay. That's what I assumed, but
yeah, I wouldn't tell you that, like call me 20 minutes before the show and we'll talk. No, there'll be some meetings. And also, usually what I do especially if you're doing live production, I always try to get everybody on like an hour beforehand to make, because put it this way, if you have a set time that you want to be on the air, quote unquote, or want to broadcast, say you want to broadcast at 1 o'clock on Saturday, I try to get everybody together at least by 12 o'clock. Maybe with you, then get on even a little bit early, like 11:45 or something, and we can go over our stuff. Make sure I got the right graphics. Make sure I got this. Go over the flow. Make sure I got everything that's ready to show that you want to be seen at the appropriate time. And then by say 12 o'clock, start bringing in everybody else, and that gives me time to check them in. We can make sure we can't really do much of the connections bad, but I guess we have time to find workarounds. But assuming that the connection's fine, make sure the lighting's good, make sure the audio microphone sounds as good as it's going to get. If the background's a little janky, you have time to kind of, okay, well, can you move to a different spot? Lighting's kind of bad. Can you add lights, subtract light, whatever? I have time to do all that within that hour. I know people with Zoom, they think they can just pop in, right like 2 minutes before the thing, which I try to avoid.
And I think at this point, so unlike Nate, I'm not. I never thought about being live, at least not initially, right?
Okay.
So whatever we do would be recorded, and however the magic happens, placed in YouTube, and and really it is, I don't want to totally abandon the MP3 aspect. So even whatever is visually in YouTube, still want to have a podcast version every place else. So how doable is that? Or do you
That's easy.
do that?
That's easy. All you gotta do is pull out. Literally, all you're doing is pulling the audio off the show. You ever
So
watch? You ever watch C-SPAN?
yes,
You ever watch morning? What's it called? Washington Journal in the morning,
yes.
7 o'clock. So literally, all they do, because I don't know if you ever listen to it on the radio. All they do is take the TV broadcast and put it on the radio.
Hmm.
If
Okay,
you ever listen to it on the radio, it's literally the TV broadcast.
so would you, is that something you would do, or am I going to need an
Oh
addition?
no, no. I'm saying literally all I would do is just take the video feed, pull the audio off, and send you the MP3.
Okay.
Yeah, that would
And
be no issue
that-
whatsoever.
so
Uh,
you would send me the MP3, and then I would need to put the MP3 in whatever are all the other locations. Is
yes.
that right? Okay.
But you
Well,
could
actually,
you could work with her tech person though, right?
what do you mean?
Well, go ahead, Jamise.
No,
Uh,
I understand what he's saying. So somebody's going to have to be responsible for putting the MP3 into all of the social media places that we have been talking about having the podcast. So you would just be handling only the MP4 aspect of this. Is that correct? Am I correct?
Well, both MP3 and MP4. 'Cause what happened? I'll send you two files. I'll send you a video file MP4 and an audio file MP3, and then you can send it. I mean, you can put it on. But you can put it wherever you want. Put it on Facebook,
Right.
YouTube.
Right.
I'm not sure how LinkedIn works in terms of video.
Right. I think that would probably be Sean Carruthers is the tech person, right? So I'm assuming the MP3 and MP4 versions would probably go to him, and he would make sure that it got into all the places that it needed to get into. So
Okay.
now
um,
let me ask you this question. So, you know, it's terrible when you start doing research because it and you don't know a lot. Let me ask you this question. So you produce the MP4. One of the things I learned was that when you put that out as a podcast, there has to be artwork associated with it. Do you do that when you send the MP4, or is that something that's attached to the file?
Well, if you're doing an actual video production, you won't need the artwork because it'll be your wife and whoever she's interviewing.
mm,
It'll be like watching a TV show. So if we
Well,
go back
but
to
like when you pull up a podcast on iTunes, there's always like a cover as if it was an album. You don't see people.
oh, you're talking about the actual. Oh, okay. You mean in that respect?
mhm.
That's what I'm
Um,
talking about.
I
So,
don't know where that comes from normally. I mean,
okay.
I've seen it, but
So
I know some sites have it, some sites don't. But I mean, I can,
so that's handled outside of your preview, or
as far as I know.
you wouldn't be doing that. Okay. That's good to know.
Now, it's something I need to do. Just, I mean, you say, hey, can you like if your tech person, hey, can you do this to the file so we can do such and such? Then obviously I'll work within the parameters that your tech person gives me. But off the top
Excellent.
of my head, I'm not sure how those how that artwork ends up on the website with the MP3.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
so let me go back to the method, right? So, or how the flow would happen in putting together the recording, because I am so not ready for live. That was like never, I'm already challenged in the visual part. So I really don't, I'm not ready for questions from the audience, and I'm worrying about, I said a bad word on live.
Right.
And I'm
I'm just
subject to say some bad words. Yeah, I don't think I'm ready for that yet. But the I don't know that the flow of what needs to happen would be any different than what you explained, because I would think that you would still, whoever are the guests, you would still want them connected in time or early enough to be able to make sure everything appears like it needs to appear and sounds like it needs to sound, and we have everything we need. Or would it be different if it wasn't going to be live?
The only difference would be just the time factor. Like I said, if you say, hey, I want everybody to, I want to like put it this way: if you're trying to get started by a certain time, like it's okay, we got to be ready to roll at 12 o'clock. Then obviously I would say, okay, everybody needs to check in at 11 o'clock to make sure you're ready for 12. He's like, okay, well, we're gonna start, recording and start getting things together at 12 o'clock. It's not time sensitive. Then we can just start at 12 and just go from there. Now we may not actually record until 1 o'clock. Put it this way: you to be safe as far as the video aspect of it is, whatever you're trying to do, it's going to probably be like an hour prep beforehand. So like I said, like I said, they say, okay, we're going to meet up at 12. Just understand that if you're literally just meeting up and just logging in at 12 o'clock, they probably won't actually get, quote unquote, get to rolling tape. Well, I can't say tape anymore. Rolling at 1 o'clock. Cause it's probably going to take a minute to check everybody in. Like I said, go over everything. Like, let's say you and I have not talked at all that day, and I got some elements, or you send me an email like at 11 o'clock the night before. Hey, I need the stuff for my show. I haven't had a chance to show it to you to make sure it was cool or whatever.
Mm,
Then at 12 o'clock, I said, okay, that all that's going on. I said, okay, this is what I did. This is what I got from you last night. This is what I did. This okay? You say yeah or nay. If I need time to fix it or whatever, I'll fix it. Um, and then go from there. And then once that's done, and your person calls in, and we check them in and everything, get them ready. It could take 45 minutes or to an hour before we actually start rolling, so to speak. Now the flip
So,
side of it is, I'm sorry, you about to ask a question, Mr. Ben?
no, it's Anthony. This is Carlos.
we can see you.
So what I'm hearing is that the amount of time that she puts into pre-production of thinking through, hey, these are the things, the elements that I'm going to want to be included in the video portion. That could be from charts to whatever, and sent that to you several days ahead of time. Then you would already start incorporating that stuff into some type of format to incorporate, and that's what would be reviewed an hour before the show. Is that what I'm hearing?
More or less. Like I said, now the flip side of it is, let's say um, let's say you have a guest that has a limited time frame, and you got to record that person at that time, and it's like, well, we need to go ahead and get this person because they don't have a lot of time to do this, and this is the best time we can do it. The flip side of that is we can just record the interview, and then we can go back and drop all the elements in later.
Mhm.
Basically, everything I'm talking about now is a lot like I said, a live to tape situation or a live situation. Live to tape is pretty
Okay.
much you're cheating live. But like I said, but if it's like, hey, we don't have time to do all of that right now. Can we just do the record and we can drop the elements in later? That's always a
Yeah, and
possibility.
and well, that is a great point, because Dr. Banks was saying, hey, she was going to be kind of free flowing. So maybe her stuff would be dropped in after the fact based on where the discussion went. Sometimes.
Yeah, it happens. There's plenty of times somebody mentions something that nobody knew was coming, a website or
Mhm.
an article or something, and nobody like, okay,
Right.
where that comes from, and I have
Yeah.
to go back and find and drop it in later. So I don't want you to think that if you don't tell me beforehand, it's not going to get done. But it just makes things quicker and easier to turn around. 'Cause obviously, if I know in advance that you need A, B, C, D, I can have it ready. Or if I don't have it ready right at that second, let's say I may have ABC ready, already done. D may be getting finished, but I know I need to drop D in there immediately after we're finished recording. But the bulk of the stuff is done. I dropped the one thing that wasn't done, and I can spit it out, as opposed to just doing everything like taping it and then going back and may take a little bit longer to do post production and say, okay, here's your file.
Mm.
Well,
And again, that's I'm sorry.
I like what you said about there will be meetings. I am a concrete sequential list making person, right? So something bad would have to happen for me to be calling you at 11 o'clock at night or emailing you at 11 o'clock at night the day before we need to do something. So Thomas and I have already worked out what the format will be for every show. And so it should be, that should make whatever the drop it in is easier to do, because it's always going to start with a certain thing and it's always going to end with a certain thing. And because I want free flowing conversation in between. I'm not really concerned about you having to drop stuff in there necessarily. And we already have the topic or theme for 6 episodes, so we could also provide that ahead of time and what our thoughts are, so that if there are particular things you think might be good to drop in there during the course of conversation, you would have prep time ahead of time to do that, right?
Okay, right.
And I want to be able to, we're now working on who the people should be, but I want to be able to say to people, hey, this is what we expect. We're going to need you to be able to be available an hour before, or whatever are the parameters and protocol for being able to be engaged, right? Certainly, you know, if Oprah Winfrey said, hey, I only have 10 minutes, we'd work, we'd work with
Right.
that, right?
Exactly.
But generally speaking, we want people to be able to do what we need to produce a quality product, right? And you can't do that on the last minute thing. So I really am trying. That's another thing about working with the team, just really trying to make sure we have protocols in place and systems in place that produce the best possible product, and last minute stuff rarely does that, right?
Right. And also remember this too. It's not just you. You may
Right.
send me an email 11 o'clock at night. Hey, my interviewee just hit me at the last second. Wants to know, can we put this in the show?
Yeah.
So so that happens too. So just
Yeah. Yeah.
FYI.
I get it. I do. So I think so if we were going to start this in January, because I just don't think I'm gonna be able to pull it off in the month of December. If we were going to launch this in January, when would you be available for us to do that? And what would be the sequence of what we need to do to begin to work with each other? So what are your next steps? And do you have any questions about anything?
The only two times that are really set in stone that I know 100% certain are Tuesday through Friday mornings from 8 to 10, 'cause that's when I do my client's exercise class. I do Mr. Lee's radio show on Saturdays from, I'll say, 10 to 12, because I try to be free at 10 o'clock, because by 10:30 or so, the people are coming in, and the show starts at 11. So I just say 10 to 12 on Saturdays. The only thing in January, which I haven't got a confirmed date, there is a production that's supposed to happen around Martin Luther King's birthday, but
Mm.
it was supposed to happen. It's supposed to do it this week, but it got pushed back. So that's a possibility. But the only two things that are set in stone right now: the exercise class Tuesday through Friday, and then the Saturday Mr. Lee's radio show.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah.
So Anthony, so she's saying she wants to do a show in January. Is part of that process, is it possible to do like a 10-minute just show to kind of show us how it will work as also training? Or does that not make sense? Or would that be part of the process for planning for her January show?
You mean like, make sure I understand the question? Yeah, doing like a test show, or
Mhm.
Right,
a pilot, I guess.
right, right.
I mean, I guess that would be more up to you guys. If you had a 10-minute uh project, I mean, 10-minute show that you guys would want to do, that we can kind of run through it.
So let me go back to my question. So if we decided, oh yay, we want to work with Anthony, what would happen next? What would be the sequence of what needs to happen from now until we start actually recording a show?
I would guess I would need your graphics, to talk to your graphics person, because now in terms of your graphics person, are they gonna be doing things for the show? Like if I say, because like let's see, for example, like I got this background, but let's say that you had a particular look or color or something that you want. Would you
Mhm.
be able to go to your graphics person and say, hey, give me this look, and I could just put it on the air? It would be something I would have to build. I guess that would be a question.
Yes, Delia Jimenez, my intern, is working on, that's a part of what she's doing. So she's aligning all the branding, and part of that will be whatever are the graphics for the podcast, the recording. So
Right. Okay.
yes, she would, between her and Sean, we would provide the graphics.
Okay, that'd be perfect then. So that'd make my life easier. You just send me and say this. I need this in the show. Here are the elements, and I'll make sure the elements, come in when needed, either while we're recording it or in post production.
And
Now,
Um,
intern also has music that she selected to go along with this as well. So would we need to send that to you? Because I noticed some of the things you sent had music with them.
I have a site that I pay for, so that's why I never have to worry about music on my end. Um, just just know whatever. I don't know what music it is. Just be careful as long as you got the rights to it, because Facebook will mute you.
Oh yeah, it's
Uh,
like it's a
okay.
like, yeah,
Okay, perfect, perfect. That's the only concern. So Facebook ever said, "Hey, this is a copyrighted material," you can say, "Hey,
right.
I got permission to
Yeah,
use it."
I'm not trying to go to prison or pay a fine. So you would need graphics and music and what else?
That would be pretty much it. And then as we, I guess the week of or something like, let's say you want to tape every, I'd just say Saturday. Let's say you want to tape every Saturday at 3 p.m. So at some point before that Saturday, you and I would have to talk, and kind of outline the show either through emails or Zoom, whichever way is, convenient for you. So by that Saturday, we're not doing it cold. We're just kind of just making sure that we're doing like a last minute check before we actually do our production.
Okay.
Um, and then I guess if you have a guest, the only other issue is if you have a guest that you think may not be too comfortable on camera, and you have to kind of work with them to make sure that their background's nice, make sure the camera's decent, microphones are
like
decent.
my sister Vanita.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. That is your sister. Okay, okay. You answered my question. I was going to wait till the end, so you answered that question already. So okay, you guys are related. Okay. Um. Well, yeah, but I mean, she's pretty easy because she has her one picture that I put up. So
Yep.
just a matter. So that's no big deal. But let's say she wanted to be on camera, and you just make sure that like you say, you may want to work with them before we tape to make sure that they're comfortable and kind of how it works. But again, if you can't do it until the day of, we can at least get them on an hour before. If nothing else, that would be ideal.
Are there any questions you have of me?
Um, Not exactly. So like I could say, so just to be clear, once my part is done, I just send you a file, and then you make sure you get it. Like I said, before we do the prior to being live, because live be a whole separate conversation. But
Right.
just in terms of recording, I won't have any responsibility putting it posting anywhere. I just give you I just give your tech person the files, and I don't have to worry about whatever they do. They do as long as it meets the specifications that they tell me that they need.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
But you're
Um.
responsible for all editing, changes, anything that they will want done to that file, uh, enhanced or whatever, correct?
That would be more Dr. Banks. But in terms of
No, I'm
aesthetics, right.
for her directions, right?
But in terms, yeah, any technical stuff like should it be 1080p or 720p, stuff like that. Resolution, different whatever resolution they may want. So again, that's a tech
That's
question.
the tech guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the tech guy.
They'll know how to answer that one.
Yep, yep.
And then what?
So would you suggest a meeting with the tech person, or like how does that communication happen? Is it best to
Uh,
do it by like I don't talk, Sean talks all that talk out, doesn't mean anything to me. So do you want to have a conversation with the tech person or just an email? Here's what the specifications are that we need for whatever other things that he's going to address. What works best for you?
Usually, I mean, in that respect, usually people just send me an email and say, "Hey, this is what I need," and I just make sure it meets those specifications. Um, Speaking of which, Mr. Banks, you and I had talked about having a meeting tomorrow at 10:30. That's still going on,
Uh, I don't know, Dr. Banks. Do you feel like Anthony needs to be a part of that meeting?
I think that's up to Anthony. So let me tell you what that meeting is. So I said, over the past few months, I've been meeting with the team. So the team meets every Friday because this has been a journey. And so we are now towards the end of the journey, but every Friday, everyone reports out on what their progress is on what was their task, right?
okay,
So um, Thomas and I have completed the format and the content, and so we'll be reporting out on that. Carlos and Thomas are working on the operational piece, so that's what they would be bringing to the meeting. And certainly, you are welcome to join that meeting. I don't know how beneficial, what you feel that is from your time standpoint, but Sean, who is the tech guy, will be in that meeting. And so, if a conversation, and that's why I ask you, do you feel like you want to meet with or need to meet with the tech guy, or do you just need an email? Because if all you need is an email, I don't know that, you need to spend time, and it sounds like your time is pretty blocked up. So, I think that's a choice for you. Certainly, you're welcome to join the meeting. Delia, who is the intern working on the branding, is going to be bringing to the meeting where she is in terms of the branding. So you would get to see and hear what her thoughts are about the branding, and certainly could have input in terms of that will work or won't work from your experience standpoint, right? Because she is an intern. So I think it's great that this is her chosen career, but she wouldn't have the same level of expertise as you might have in terms of looking at this will work or not work, right?
Right.
So I think that is totally up to you. I feel like Carlos should be able to convey the conversation that we have had today, but you're welcome to come.
I guess it wouldn't hurt, at least for the first, at least for tomorrow. I
Yep. Yep.
I told
Now, Anthony, our meeting actually starts at 9:30, so you'll be joining us towards the end of our meeting, just so you're aware.
But you're welcome to come start with us at 9:30.
No, he had a conflict.
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't want you to feel like you can't jump in whenever it makes sense for you, right? So we meet every Friday at 9:30, and we probably will until we launch, until whatever happens is launched. I guess the only other thing for me is I'm assuming you have some type of contractual agreement.
Uh, well, yes. Or I mean, we'll put it this way. The reason why I say like that, because I made a deal with my other client, the one I did the morning class, because we did kind of a handshake deal. I said, look, we'll go by a month to month basis, because she wasn't sure if she wanted to do it weekly and pay me weekly, and then the money was a little on the low side. So I was like, well, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this, for long term for this amount of money. So we kept it kind of loose. Um, Usually, like I said, I mean, I guess the question, because Mr. Banks on an initial conversation didn't seem like you guys are ready to use me yet. So I guess the question becomes now: are you thinking about actually using me in January or later down the road?
So Mr. Banks and Thomas Griffin need to make that recommendation to the team. I just remember I said I'm a concrete sequential list making person. So on my
Right.
list is what would the contractual agreement look like? I have some other things from a video standpoint that I need to have done, and I've had conversations with people and entered into, and none of them are pretty much willing to do anything without some agreement. So that's what I was asking, like about your contractual agreement. So I have probably, I don't know, 8 hours, at least 8 hours of video from workshops or presentations that I have tried to find someone competent to help me turn into little snippets of commercials or pieces that I could use for my learning management system courses, right? And haven't been able to find anyone, but I'm somehow vibing that perhaps you could help with that. So whatever works for you, I guess. Also, as an entrepreneur, as a solo entrepreneur, I oftentimes encounter people who ask for my services or want my services. And as you indicated, then we get in there and the pieces don't fit. So I like to always make sure the pieces fit. I want to respect you as a professional and make sure that I am treating you the way a professional should be treated, which means meeting my obligations and responsibilities to you as much as you meet those for me. So, whatever is the agreement, I certainly appreciate your flexibility, but I think the other thing too is if we don't have some type of agreement, then when things don't go the way you want or the way I want, we don't have anything to help us bring it back together and say, okay, well, here's what we said we would do, right?
Right. I mean, I could definitely write up something. That's not an issue. It's just a matter of when you want to move forward on that part of it.
So, uh, from a timeline standpoint, how soon how soon in January could we, because we're looking at twice a month for 30 to 45 minutes. And I don't know that we've set a specific date. So since I'm not doing a live broadcast, a specific day at a specific time is not as critical for me. But if that works better for your schedule, for us to say, okay, we're going to record on the second and fourth Wednesday at 2 o'clock, if that works best for you, whatever fits. That's another reason why having something on paper, sort of like what works for you and how can we make sure we're doing that. That'll also help us as we solicit guests to be able to say, here's when we need you, and try to be consistent with it. And we're going to be putting this stuff out in multiple places. So another piece is, we want people to expect to help Jamise Banks change the world every Wednesday at 2 o'clock or whatever it winds up being. Though if we're recording, we can post it like whenever, right? We can record it whenever and post it when it fits our date. But what would be the soonest you would be ready to do this? If we provide you with the graphics and the music, when could you start?
Pretty much early January. I would definitely need a shooting schedule because the last thing I want to do is book something. And then 10 minutes after I book it, you call, hey, I got to shoot. I got a thing we
Mhm.
need to do, and it's like right at the same time.
Yeah,
So,
I've done that.
so
Schedule
if I
a
already
Zoom
know,
meeting at the same time, right? Or schedule a Zoom meeting that has somebody put something on my calendar. So I feel you. So I think that covers it for me. The team, like I said, the team meets tomorrow. I don't, the recommendation is coming from Carlos and Thomas. I feel good about being able to talk with them, work with you. So I certainly have no objections. Want to see what Sean has to say about how this all works together with the MP3, MP4 social media thing, um, and what Delia has to say in terms of the graphics and the music, and see what your response is to them. But I feel good about it if you feel good about it.
yeah, I mean, we can definitely work together. Just let me know. Just give me the go.
Hey, hey, Anthony.
Yes,
So
sir.
can you help edit those other clips? Is that something you do?
Yeah, but that's a whole separate conversation on what exactly she
Mhm.
wants and everything.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
That's,
But
yeah,
yeah, but
yes.
if you want to have a deeper conversation about that particular part, just let me know when we can talk.
Excellent.
I absolutely do. And so after I get past tomorrow, I'll be circling before the end of this year. I want to do something with that because I've got all this video. So one of the things that I do is my company does some. So my company works in the equity space. So I do diversity, inclusion, unconscious bias, strategic planning, leadership coaching, training and development. And so once every quarter, I provide in-kind services to an organization that cannot otherwise afford to have my services. And I do that as an exchange. So oftentimes what organizations are able to do is to record the session that I provide and then give me that recording. So I have, like I said, probably at least 8 hours of recordings of sessions that I have done that I can't seem to find a way to do anything with. So
So I'm
so
gonna take a
it would require another, I'm sure, another conversation to really talk about how I want to use those and to hear from you. So when I saw the first thing, the first link I think that Carlos in the email Carlos sent was something that was sort of like a commercial, right? Which I
Oh,
thought
sorry for the radio show. Okay.
which I thought that would be that would be really great to have in a variety of ways. I'm now increasing my RFP responses, and oftentimes companies will ask for, particularly if it's something that involves speaking, they'll ask for a speaking segment, but they don't want a 90-minute workshop. Like there are time limits, and so being able to have abbreviations of those things that I have in order to submit those with RFPs would be good. And then, as I said, I'm going to start those courses. So in some cases, I would want to use those segments from those as a part of giving instruction in a course. So yeah, it would require a much different conversation.
Okay. Just let me know when.
I absolutely will. So, Carlos, did you send Anthony the link for the meeting tomorrow? The Zoom meeting? Did you send him the Zoom link?
Yes.
Okay, so he has the link so he can join us if he's available and wants to. And then we'll either Carlos or Thomas or I, somebody will decide tomorrow. We'll circle back to you about how we proceed next. It'll probably be Thomas because he's going to be the producer. And so the whole notion of the shooting schedule and all of that will come from his direction. So
Okay.
have you talked with Thomas or just Carlos?
I was on the phone with Thomas
Okay.
briefly about was it a week ago?
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
it'll
somewhere around
most
there.
probably be Thomas because, like I said, he's the producer. He and I have gone through the format and the content and are pounding out the last part of the guest part of the content. So it probably makes the most sense for it to be him. But somebody will circle back, and hopefully I'll get to see your actual face at some point.
Yeah, I
point.
don't. I'm the exact opposite of you. You said you like to do the content. I like to do all the behind the scenes production, dirty work.
Uh,
I
I
thought
don't
that
need to
was
be
I
okay.
thought that was your face there. That's not your face.
No.
I remember that from what was the Will Smith movie where
Oh,
uh,
Iron Robot.
I
Oh, I
Robot.
Robot. Yeah, I Robot.
Oh,
I
okay.
Robot.
It
That's
shows
what
how much I know.
it's iRobot. But yeah, so I look forward to the opportunity to engage with you and learn from you and work with you.
Same here. Oh, one quick question.
Sure.
Well, I guess this probably be a tomorrow question too. You said you wanted to do some kind of demo, like 10-minute demo or something, or you want to kind of book now, or are you going to wait for that?
I think we'll probably wait, but that I
Okay.
think the consensus of the team and the results from everybody's research was, before you launch the whole 30 to 45-minute thing, you should do and it depends on who you read or who you listen to, but at least a couple of minutes to see what does it sound like, and in this case, what does it look like? Is it what we want it to sound like and look like before we proceed with the whole 30 to 45-minute deal?
I would agree with that. It wouldn't hurt to do a short version.
So, and Thomas and I have talked about that too, because we need some type of intro. So we've talked about that 10-minute thing might be the intro that Thomas and I would most probably do together, that sets the tone for the format that then will be the rest of the shows in the series. And
Okay,
I
that
should
makes sense.
probably say, I should have probably included this. So my thought about how this whole podcast, video recording, whatever's the right word, thing works, came from a conversation I had with someone that thought about podcast series as like the chapter in a book. And so that's the way that I'm thinking about it. And so this is chapter 1 that Thomas and I have put together the content for. The format will always be the same, but the content will come under those blankets that we call chapters. And so
Okay.
there are 6 episodes that we have identified in this chapter that come from what I think is a very amazing book, although it's a children's book, but it is amazing, that really sets the tone for what the podcast is all about, which is, how do we change the world? How do we make it better for people? How do we do that individually without a whole bunch of money in our pocket or a whole bunch of influence? How does each individual, teeny tiny small person do something that can really impact what is happening in the world? So I think it would be easy, and I'll have a conversation with Thomas, but I think it would be easy for Thomas and I to do something for 10 minutes to get a sense for the flow, right?
Okay. Oh, I do have another question for you.
Sure.
Um, I guess not so much for the podcast, but have you seen any quote unquote video podcast that you like to, hey, if I had the time, energy, budget, resources,
Um,
that's what I wanted to look like?
so people, honestly and truly, I'm not a big podcaster. I've listened to a few, some good, some not so good.
Right.
I like Jada Pinkett
The red table.
and the red table, right? But I think I like that because of the discussion. I like the discussion, the dialogue, the frankness. But most of what I have seen or listened to, and it's not a lot, just wasn't me, right? Uh, so I can't say that there's something that I've seen that I say, oh, I want to be like that. But what I do know is that I want people to be interested and engaged and challenged, like more like television um, talk people, I think, than anything I have heard podcast wise.
That's
That
up
make
my
any
alley
sense?
because, okay. Yeah, that's up my alley. I tell people I try to do productions, even though we're using Zoom and all this virtual stuff. We try to make it look as much of it like a real broadcast as possible. So we're on the
Yeah,
same page on that one.
right.
But
Yeah,
I will say this real quick.
sure.
If you're really into that much about audience engagement,
Hmm.
the sooner you do it live, quote unquote, the better.
Yeah.
Because like I was telling Mr. Banks, because once you do the live aspect of it, then you can look in the chat and say, hey, if you got somebody now watching, they want to know ABC. You
Mhm.
got your Facebook chat up, you got your YouTube chat up. So if somebody says something really funny in the YouTube chat, you can read it out. And people seem to like that when you read their questions and comments, live while you're streaming. But the only way to really do that, obviously, is if you're live. Now the flip side of it is something you may want to consider. If you're gonna do a recording, maybe let your audience or people know on Facebook or I guess it'd be Facebook. How about way you interact with your people? Sorry, like the email blast or whatever. Say,
Mhm.
hey, I'm about to do a taping this week. The subject is X, Y, Z.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
have a question about it, send me your question, and we can, we'll discuss the questions and comments, while we're taping it. So I
Yeah.
mean, you can make it do that in the short term.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's a part of the conversation that I actually had with Sean. Because the other thing I'm not into is blogging, right? Like I just do not have time. And I'm not going to pretend like I have time. And I don't want to have somebody else blogging, pretending to be me or trying
Right.
to say what I would say, right? But I agree with you. I want a way to engage people is to hear from them and to include what they have expressed in the show, right? And so if I'm asking you to help me change the world, like, what are you doing out there? Tell me what you're doing out there. Tell me what you think needs to be changed out there. And so having a way to take that in is important. And Sean seemed to think YouTube was a great way because once you put something out there, people can respond and you can use that in future
Right.
broadcast and also comment in that space without it being the same as a blog. So I'm with you. That's what I said. See, vibe. You feel the vibe?
Feel the vibe.
And I should say my sister is a Howard grad, though I'm sure, let's see, when did Lisa graduate? Maybe 86, 85, 86, somewhere in there.
I was supposed to graduate in '93 because I came in '89. So I guess she's about what, 5 years older than me. So yeah, we're not too far apart in age.
But she goes back well, she did until COVID. She's there every year for homecoming. Right.
It's you homecoming.
Yes, it's like the thing, the thing, the thing. And we are Delta, so we have spent a little time in Washington, D.C.
Okay, yeah, 'cause they did their I think they had an annual event like in every March, wasn't it? Well, I guess
Mhm,
pre-COVID.
mhm. Yep, yep. And our
Hopefully everything will
headquarters
be back
is
to
there,
normal
like
next year.
many other Greeks, right? So, and then when we had the centennial, we did our centennial convention in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I don't know. That's a little too much city for me. Any place where you shouldn't really drive a car. Washington D.C. is one of those places where you shouldn't really drive a car.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one alone because I can't really argue.
Like New York City,
Is
some
yeah.
like you shouldn't
You
really
need,
drive a car. Get somebody to take you wherever you need to go. But those places also generally are so rich with culture and history, right?
yeah, yeah, very much so.
Yes, it is. So, well, I appreciate the time you've given us today. I hope you'll be able to make it tomorrow. But like I said, I'm sure that Carlos and Thomas will be able to convey what you bring to the table, and then we'll be circling back. And I definitely will be circling back with you about all these video or tape footage that I have that I need to do something with. So I
Okay.
appreciate your time and look forward to working with you to the opportunity to work with you.
Same here, same here. Oh, and Mr. Banks,
Yes, sir.
I guess around 10. I'll say, give me between 10 and 10:15. I could say because sometimes you go over a few minutes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well,
Whenever
It'd
you
be the
can
only
get
thing
in,
to get
that's
on there.
great.
Okay.
we start at 9:30, and and sometimes we just talk about, and we didn't meet last week because it was Thanksgiving. So I'm sure by the time you join us, we will have had everybody will have shared their Thanksgiving, what their Thanksgiving was like, right? Um,
Right.
so yeah, we
Okay.
look forward to it. Take care.
Yeah, I'll take it easy. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good one.